Hey there, greetings from Three Oaks here in Crystal Lake, Illinois. So beautiful. I think I mentioned before this used to be a mine, a strip mine, and then they hit water and it just filled up and it's absolutely beautiful. This water is super clean. They have boats. You could rent a boat way over there at the marina. I don't know if you can see it, but they're not gas boats. They're battery motorized. So the water stays super clean, and yeah, it's just gorgeous over here. I don't know if you can see all the ducks. So yeah, I just wanted to share some thoughts about something that's I've been reflecting on really all week long. It's um, it's about making promises, and it's about being a person of integrity. And so, what I want to kind of a question I want to pose, maybe for reflection, is: are you the kind of person that others can trust, that others can put confidence in, others can rely on? Something I've been thinking about related to making promises. So let me just share some what I've been actually reflecting on. As I said before, I am a Christian. I believe in Jesus. I'm a follower of Jesus, and I believe in the words of Jesus. So he said at one point, this is in the book of Matthew, chapter 5. It's actually about vows. So stick with me because it's, we have, yeah, we may be familiar with vows or oaths is another way to put it. I like to use the word promises because that's probably the synonym that we're most familiar with on a day-to-day basis. But a vow, say you make a marriage vow, or oaths. I believe medical professionals may take a Hippocratic oath, or if you're applying for citizenship in the United States or in I don't know, maybe other countries, you take an oath. So these are some serious things, right? Or you're in a court of law, and in America, you put your hand on the Bible, or may be some alternatives to that, but you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So, most people aren't thinking about vows and oaths every day, I'm guessing, because that's not something I talk with my friends about or family, generally speaking. I remember my marriage vows. Other than that, but promises. I think we talk about promises. We make promises. People make promises to us. And so here's something that Jesus said. He said, "Again, you have heard, the ancients were told, you shall not make false vows, but shall fulfill your vows to the Lord. But I say to you, take no oath at all, neither by heaven, for it is the throne of God, nor by the earth, for it is the footstool of his feet, nor by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king, nor shall you take an oath by your head." I guess that's something they used to do back in the day. Maybe not something we could relate to, but for you cannot make a single hair white or black. But make sure your statement is yes, yes, or no, no. Anything beyond these is of evil origin. So I actually wrote a little paraphrase of this passage to try to just to kind of digest it and put it in terms that I understand. So this may help somebody. I don't know. So here's my paraphrase. Here's another saying from the old days: don't make empty promises, but keep the promises you make to God. But now I'm here to tell you all, my paraphrase of Jesus, don't make any promises at all. Not by the universe, which is God's seat of power, nor by the earth, where God rests his feet, nor by Jerusalem, the great king owns the city. And don't promise by your head. You can't even make a hair white or black. So let your word yes be yes, no, no. Anything else comes from the evil one. So something really interesting. Yeah, that sun is very glaring. I've been informed it's not the best way to make a video to have a really harsh sun. Um, so what really struck me is the imagery here. Jesus is well, and these are not categories apparently that he just made up. These are things that the people he was speaking to, the Jews of the day, would swear by. And Nowadays people may say things like, "Oh, I swear on my mother's grave," or, um, uh, well, we'll hear people say, "I swear to God," and that sort of thing. So at this time, though, the Jewish people were actually really scared to take a vow in the name of God Himself, because they feared God. Um, that was a huge motivation in their culture at the time, and so they would basically they didn't want to be guilty of breaking a vow made to God because there's like that's deadly serious. And so they didn't want to necessarily even obligate themselves out of fear that they might break that vow or oath. So they vowed by other things. They vowed by heaven. I use the word universe because, like, when you look up from any point on Earth, what's away from Earth? It's the whole universe. There we go. Um, or the Earth. It's kind of interesting. You take the whole universe and you zoom in to the planet Earth and you zoom in to a city, Jerusalem, and then you zoom in to a person in the city, their head. So that was kind of interesting imagery that Jesus used here, zooming in like that. And the other thing that's really interesting is how uh, Jesus pointed out that, well, if you want to like call on like use the universe as collateral to your vow, like that's how serious I am. I'm gonna, swear by the universe. Well, Jesus is like, you don't own the universe. Like that's not yours. That's like God actually. That's like His throne. He sits on the universe. Okay, and there's a whole imagery of God sitting, kicking up His feet, which is really interesting, and maybe surveilling His city that He owns. So it's kind of an interesting image, and looking at His people, doing a little head count of His people, right? Like any good um, government leader does. They want to know how their people are doing, right? So, but it's interesting to me that the first three examples, He's like, hey, this is God's, not yours, not yours, not yours. And then finally, the one thing He acknowledges is ours, our head. You think, well, if I'm going to swear by anything, let's see, should I swear by my pinky? That's not a very powerful thing, not a very dominant part of my body. How about my head? Like the thing where I can see and hear and speak. The head seems to have a lot of collateral. If you're going to swear by something that you actually, it's part of you, right? And Jesus says, well, can you change the color of your hair? Just like make it change color? Not talking about hair dye. No doubt they had hair dye back then, just like we do today. But if you change the color of your hair with hair dye, that's not exactly, by the power of your own will. Yeah, why willpower changing your hair color. By voluntary function of your body, you can change your hair color. No, we don't even have power over that one seemingly insignificant thing about our own bodies. I mean, hair. I mean, gee, I'm getting kind of white hair here under my cap. Yeah. So I can't stop that. I can't just will that to stop. We can't stop the aging process. So there's part of this that okay, we're talking about promises. Talking about people talking about being people that can be trusted. Okay, what's the connection? Well, first of all, what I've just shared here is that we don't have power. There's an aspect of what Jesus is saying is about power and authority. What kind of weight is behind what we're saying? Well, as read here, he ends on, don't add all these things. Don't make promises, vows, oaths, whatever. And I'm not going to weigh in on whether we should be taking oaths or vows for all those other reasons I said, like marriage or citizenship or the court of law and that sort of thing. I'm just talking about just sticking to the point of where he lands. Let your word be yes. Let your word yes be yes, and no, no. And anything else comes from evil one. In other words, the people he was speaking to thought, well, I gotta really add something to make it sound like, I'm really committed, because my yes apparently isn't good enough. Why do we feel we have to add? Could it be because we haven't always done what we said? Maybe there's some chinks in our armor of integrity. Um, Maybe we said, promise somebody we'd do something, and we didn't. We let them down. Um, God forbid, went back on a marriage vow. Um, Not going to get into those other official vows, but just doing things that we didn't say, or that we said we wouldn't do, or actually that we said we wouldn't do, like, I will never do that, and then we go ahead and do it. So we've basically all hurt our own reputations. I think, I'm probably not the only one. I remember a friend. He was telling me about his parents had suffered just a financial, um, just a huge financial loss in their lives. They lost their house. They had to move out. They had to sell tons of their possessions. It was really heartbreaking. And I said, hey, what? Let me help out. I can't do a lot, but I can give your family, like, I don't know, it was like $20 or $50. It was like probably nothing. But I remember talking to him a week or two later, and he's like, yeah, you said you were going to give something to my parents. And I had honestly forgotten about it. I was just like, oh my gosh. And at that time, I had read a proverb, and maybe I read the proverb and remembered and went back to him. I can't remember. But one way or another, I realized that I hadn't done what I said. The proverb says, like clouds without rain is a man who boasts of gifts he doesn't give. And I thought, man, I was so convicted by that. And I went to my friend. I'm like, hey, here's that money I said, I would give you. And it's possible he had to ask me, bring it up again. I can't remember. But yeah, that really was a clear proof to me that I do not always do what I say. And it was humbling, I have to admit. There are a lot of other examples that no doubt I can't remember, or that I do remember. There are some others, but so what's really, where's this all really mattering in the end here? Why am I sharing this? Well, the problem here with the Jews is that, really anybody who's hearing these words that Jesus is saying, is that his hearers were being dishonest, because if they didn't swear by the name of God, they knew it wasn't that bad if they broke the vow, because they didn't swear by the name of God, so God wouldn't hold them accountable, they thought. So in their minds, there was a loophole. Well, yeah, I swear by heaven I'm going to get you that money by the end of the day, my friend. I'm going to pay you back, by Friday, by Shabbat. And then they don't do it. They're like, oh, well, I really didn't swear by the name of the Lord. I just swore by heaven. So, I'm not, I can get out of that vow. Like, it was a dishonest thing, and they knew it was dishonest when they said it. Everybody knew it was dishonest, but they would say it anyway, because that's what was going on. And I wonder, is that the culture? I mean, what's changed? When I look at society now, some people say that we live in a post-truth society. That means capital T, absolute truth. People don't believe in it anymore. Now, I'm confident there are many people who believe in absolute truth. I do. Truth, capital T. But then there are things that aren't necessarily absolute truth. It's just like, well, gosh, is this water? Over here? Like, or what is that? Some people, or if I jump in this, is the water real? Will I actually die? Will I drown? Some people even argue about if things are real or not. And so, is this life we're living a reality, or are we in some kind of artificial construct? Crystal Lake, Illinois, where I live. Does it belong to the United States of America? Or does this land belong to the indigenous people who lived here before it was colonized by the Europeans? there are things that are true that are maybe not absolute truth, but they're facts, and there are people who disagree about those things. Well, if you look at the talking heads and politicians and influencers and experts and millionaires and billionaires, you'll often hear people say stuff. And then somebody on the other side will say, "Oh, that's a lie. That's fake news." And then, they'll spout some supposed facts. And then the other side will say, "Well, you're lying, and that's fake news." It's honestly confusing to know what's true and who's telling the truth about a lot of things. Like, what really was the reason behind that war starting? What is the reason for, the rise in this certain disease? What is the reason why the, city approved this business to be, to lease this property, and they can build this particular business in this area? So, it's hard. It's hard. We live in a world where there's a lot of uncertainty about what's true and who's telling the truth. There's a real breakdown of trust and of confidence. People have lost a lot of confidence in government, in corporations, in organizations, in employment. I mean, just a lot of different things. Even in like the family, the family. I'll call it, I don't know, structure. I guess I can't think of any other way to put it. The traditional family structure. I'm not, here to necessarily get into that, but a lot of people have lost confidence. And so, what's the solution? Well, I don't have any illusions that, I can make some big dent in the universe or on the planet Earth, this world, or even the city I live in. I mean, maybe nobody watches this video in the city where I live. But there's one thing I can do. With my wife, my kids, my family, my parents, my brothers and sisters, my friends, my coworkers, my faith community, I can be a man of my word. I can gain the confidence of those who are close to me and the people I meet, the people I deal with on a daily basis. And when I say yes, do I really intend to follow through on that? And when I say no, nope, not going there, not doing that, can people rely on that? Can they have confidence in me that I'm really going to refrain from those things? I guess the question really is, how trustworthy are we? That's the one area I believe Jesus is recognizing that we have power. We have power to have integrity. We have power to say what we mean and mean what we say, and don't try adding anything to it. That's about it. I hope that we can all be those kinds of people. This is Matthew chapter 5, if you want to check it out. Take care.